So me and Bob are here in Clemens, North Carolina, in a bed and breakfast, and on vacation.
Oh,
So we're tuning in here just to join you guys on our little laptop, and we're sitting in the bed because in the room there's no place else to really sit like at a computer. So welcome everybody, and I don't know where Steve just went, but our guest today. Is Steve still there? Oh yeah, there you are. Our guest today, we'll start out with Mary Jane Borden, Free Press Lidia Award winner and cannabis queen extraordinaire, as writer for the Free Press, Mary Jane's Guide. And she's going to bring us up to date on what's going on with marijuana and the current legislation, or anything else that's going on. And I think she has a PowerPoint, Steve. So is that something you can help us with?
you want me to? I think I'm. Yeah, I was going to say. I think I'm supposed to be an admin or whatever is on here. So I could go ahead and start this if I could sit my share screen.
Okay.
Let's see if we could get it. Here we go. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
This is Ohio Adult Use Initiated Statute, right?
Yes.
Got a bunch of people entering here. Is somebody else going to, since I've been admin, somebody else is going to take care of the people who are entering, correct?
Steve, yeah. Steve will do that.
Because it kind of comes to me, I guess, as an admin.
Yeah, you're just co-host. You can do that.
Okay. Well, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to get distracted. Is all I'm saying.
We'll take care of it. There's plenty of co-hosts that can help. Thanks.
All right. Good. All right. So ready, set, go. Okay. We're here to talk about tonight the Ohio Adult Use Initiated Statute. It's called Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol. So I'll call it the RMLA. Okay. So you're going to see that throughout my presentation. So if you wonder what that is, and I do define it periodically, that's what we're talking about here. Okay. One thing. All right, there we go. All right. And what this page particularly demonstrates here is that I've done a lot of writing about adult use marijuana in Ohio for several years now. And this kind of chronicles the articles that are out there on the Free Press website that you can actually go into and read it for yourself. And I do have this is a PowerPoint that we're looking at right now, but I converted the PowerPoint into a PDF. So I'll put it into the transcript. You guys can pull it up. And, if you want to look at some particularly my deep dive data, it's going to be in these 7 articles. So that's why I put this first. So I think it shows you that, at least for as me concerns, it's party one. Free Press has done a lot of work on this issue, and we've done a lot of reporting on it. So I think we should be proud of that. And I think this could really help us get some honest and factual information as we hope to pass this in November. All right. Now, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I know there's somebody behind me, and I don't want to take too much of your time by walking through some minutia. But of course, this here is the features of the RMLA. It's an initiated statute. We'll get that in a minute. And these are what it features. All right. And some of you may have signed a petition. This would be in the items in the petition that you would have signed saying, yes, we want to have this as law in the state of Ohio. The possession law, well, possession is a little bit weaker than what we have in the program, the medical marijuana program, because we have 3-month supply, which could be as much as 9 ounces. So this is a little more lean side. It's still leaner also than the decriminalized 100 grams threshold right now that exists in Ohio for possession limits. Up to that amount, it's kind of like a get out jail free. There's no criminal record and no fines or fees. So in theory, anyway, I know the police might see me different, but that's in theory anyway. Okay, it has home grow. And I think the home grow is fairly generous. 6 plants in a private residence, 12 plants for a big home where you have 2 or more people. I think that's fairly generous. 10% adult use tax. It's going to be paid when I go to the dispensary to buy the cannabis. I'm going to be charged an adult use tax. But how many of us, I think we're pretty used to sales taxes now. This is a little higher than a sales tax. You probably could still be charged a sales tax, but still, like, it's a tax that's going to help five different funds. Cultivation, the existing medical marijuana cultivators are grandfathered into this, and they can have an additional space to cultivate should they so choose. But I think it's interesting here that it creates a new level 3 cultivator, and this is kind of a small artisanal grow of about 5,000 square feet. Okay. Social equity it doesn't go, I think, as far as social equity as some people would like, but it does have social equity qualities to it. I think that they were a little reticent to put a lot of that in there, since the last time with HB 523, they had some social equity provisions in that measure that actually went before the Supreme Court and were found unconstitutional. Irregardless, it does allocates some licenses to social equity adult use cultivators and dispensaries. And there are a few protections that we don't have, and for at least specified in the other medical marijuana program. One of them is disciplinary action. You can't lose an occupational license, and they do address handguns. So for what that's worth, field sobriety test, you don't lose you don't use your license. Child abuse or custody. I do believe this, and that the tendency was in HB 523, which was again the medical marijuana law, but it's also repeated here. All right, let's go on. Now, this slide is here not so much to you to envelop you in a minutia, but I want to show you that what the campaign went through the last 2 years to put this on the ballot in November. And we a lot of us, if we've done ballot issues, and know that certainly I have, Bob and Susanna will aware of how this all works. But anyway, this is what's called an initiate statute. It's basically a law that's going to be uses the procedures to put a law into the Ohio Revised Code of the provisions that I mentioned earlier. Again, it's a law. It's not a constitutional amendment, but will have the same codes and stuff like that as the Ohio Revised Code. And you can see here the different things that had to go through over the last 2 years to get here. In fact, there was a couple of lawsuits. There was a lawsuit that actually allowed them to be on the ballot in 2023, because the way they were trying to do the signatures back in 2022, it would probably have might have barred them from being on the ballot, but they filed a lawsuit with the High Supreme Court, which has jurisdiction over all ballot issues. The Supreme Court says, well, in the settlement, that will allow you to go forward with the signature collection with the eye towards putting the amendment on the ballot, the law on the ballot in 2023, which they have successfully done. Now, you go through all of this, all right? The one point I want to make at this slide here is the General Assembly can modify and even deactivate the statute like any other legislative bill. So think of it this way: they go through all of this, and the legislature can come in and tank it. And here's the kind of the people who are probably going to want it to be tanked. It may look like there's more of them than there really are, but these are groups that have proposed HB 523. I call them the usual suspects because they were the same groups that opposed HB 523 back in 2016. Many of them were anyway. So their PAC is called Protect Ohio Workers and Families. That's what the PAC is called. An interesting thing about the PAC, this is a very recently formed PAC, probably sometime in August or September. And there's no reporting out there in terms of what the expenditures or the contributions were to this PAC. Now, as we get towards the election, there is a time frame in which this stuff has to be. If you're actually PAC working on an election, you have to report to the Secretary of State's office. So I'm hoping that by my next report, I can give you some of the information as to how much has been donated, both on the proponent side, that would be the issue 2 side, and then on the opponent side, which are some of the people that you see here. We're working inside this thing called a trifecta. And a trifecta means that the Republican Party controls the Ohio House, it controls the Ohio Senate, it controls all the branches of government from the governorship to the Ohio Attorney General to the Ohio Secretary of State, Ohio Auditor, et cetera, all Republicans. And not to mention that the Supreme Court is a trifecta because it has a Republican majority, one of which happens to be the governor's son. This state has some serious problems, and we know it. And this is going to be a problem here with the issue 2, as we mentioned before, hoping that they don't tank it. Now, you see here, I say, let's go a little stepwise here. Ohio Attorney General, yes, in a very unusual way, issued an analysis. He doesn't have to do that. He's even not supposed to. This is the guy who administers these provisions to make these ballot issues. I don't think he's supposed to come in here and offer his opinion, but he did anyway. Again, it doesn't have repercussions because there's a trifecta running the state, right? Okay, so in an unusual move, he produced his analysis on issue 1 and issue 2. The Business Roundtable, who'd have thought that they would opposed to this because their essential concern is drug testing, and they want to continue to do drug testing. Unfortunately, the initiative contains this clause that says these employers don't have to, they're allowed to continue with, let's say, workplace drug testing and those kinds of drug-free workplace programs. So unfortunately. So let's look at here, Ohio Senate Resolution 215. Now, this was just done very recently. I think it was done for issue 1 as well, but certainly done for issue 2. And it makes it sound, doesn't it, like that, it's Ohio Senate went right in, and this is their opinion. This is the opinion of the Republicans in the Ohio Senate. And because there is a majority, such a majority of them, they can say that that's their opinion, but it's not like the whole Senate. Oh, I can't remember how many members are there in there. Somebody can tell me though. This is not like it's their opinion. This is the opinion of the highest senators who are Republican. And my crystal ball says, okay, I could be wrong, but my crystal ball says that this is their platform for tanking it or considerably restricting it if it passes. We're going to hope that if it passes, we're going to hope that it's when it passes. I want to make sure everybody's clear on that. We want to get this thing passed, but when it passes, this is going to be their basis of it, and they've already filed it. Let's see if I'm wrong. I'd like to be, but I think it's what I think. So you can go into all the. In fact, I want to say that all these you see on this slide, when you get your PowerPoint, you can go in and look at the resolution by clicking on that link. Okay, let's move on. All right. So here's the good news. This is the good news, and I think that's really pretty positive here. If you look Pew Research. This is a survey run, I think, to 2022, but let's consider that still to be relevant. 59% of adults said that recreational marijuana should be legal for adults, right? That's kind of the whole United States, conglomerate of the United States. And here, if we look at these 3 different polls, there's 3 different polls have been conducted on this measure since July. Now, 2 of them were conducted in August, 1 obviously in July. Now, the Suffolk University, 59% support. Fallon Research, 59% support. Now, the FM3 research has 55% of the 843 respondents would be a definitely or probably. But if you add the lean to, and then a little waffle here, you get again up to 59%. Now, I will say this, as I've observed ballot issues for the last 20 some years, the closer you get to an election, the narrower the margins become. All right. So if you see 55% here, that's 3% wiggle room to get to the 50% plus 1 for passage. Now, of course, with 59%, you feel a little bit more comfortable. And as I say, I think if I were running the campaign, if I were Tom Herron, now, I would certainly lovely to have the polling go over 60%. Yes, 59%. I think is a pretty decent margin, and I'm comfortable with that. Okay. All right. So this is the short version. I think that, like I say, you go into my articles, you can get all the details you ever wanted on these things. If you want the specific counts of the signatures, with specific dates, blah blah blah. Other types of research. then you're going to find it in my articles. And I just failed to mention one thing. I thought of just a little brain burp here. I did a pretty large deep dive about opponents several years ago, and I think it's linked to one of my articles. I really strongly suggest that you read that, because you will understand then who our opponents really are. And it's kind of disconcerting, because you certainly have the pharmaceutical industry. All these opponents are funded by grants, federal grants that come from the Office of National Drug Control Policy. So we're up against, no matter what, we're up against the government, as we can see, and we're up against, these kind of well-funded antis that, are getting grants from the government to do what they do. Okay. So anyway, that's a little thing you just learned, right? A little sidebar that you just learned right there. So what do we learn from the PowerPoint? I think, first of all, I want to take pride in this. The Cannabis Free Press is a good source on issue 2, other ballot issues in cannabis policies and politics. And we've been doing this. I started to work for the Free Press in 2000. And as you may know, I've written, I think, 110, 105, 106, something like articles by now. And I've covered all these many things. So the Free Press is an excellent source for discussion of politics. The good features we've learned here, I talked about the features of it, the home grow, the social equity, the artisanal cultivation sites, the protections. And I think, like I said, the thing I'm trying to drive home here is the possibility that this could be overridden. And you can see what the RMLA went through to get where we are today. This is for us. This is for we the people. We the people want this. And so this is what they did for us. And you can have them be kneecapped by the trifecta that we have in the Ohio House and Senate. And so, as I say, they're going back to the opposition that I just discussed here a second ago. And of course, that I wanted to add that these are being funded by the federal government and the pharmaceutical industry. We can show that in that opposition article that I did several years ago. So again, they're the usual suspects, but I really personally think that the Attorney General and Secretary of State have stepped out of bounds. I think this is wrong. They're not going to be able to do anything about it because, as I say, the Republicans will have each other's butts. But they're offering unsolicited opinions on all these issues, I think is unacceptable. So, and despite all this, the state of Ohio, despite their exemptions, we're getting 59% favorable polling right now. It could change, and I hope it doesn't, slice off in the next month. It can happen. But if we're looking at the same thing at the beginning of November that we're looking at now, I think it's really pretty good news passage. All right, that is the presentation there. Now, I'm going to bridge to something else really important to me. Okay. This is one of my closest friends. In fact, I was her caregiver under the program, and a caregiver under the program means that I could go to a dispensary and buy cannabis for her and help administer to her. I think many of you know Angelica Warren. She's been a figure here. If you go and read my article, and I think if you want to get a handle on who she is, my article last month was really a tribute to her. And you'll see some pictures of us standing on the state. I think Bob's in the picture. We're standing on the state house steps as we're launching the Ohio Cannabis Rights Amendment. And Angelica is one of the people who was there with us on that date. She looked like a housewife. She could have been like a Westboro housewife, and you wouldn't have known any difference that she was the aficionado that she is. But she could be that kind of chameleon because she knew that she wanted it to, for her care and for everyone else's care, she wanted to make sure that cannabis was available to everybody. And the significance of Angelica is that she was a 15-year survivor of brain cancer for a disease that she should have lived more than a year. I'd said 14 to 16 months, more than a year. And she was with us for 15 years. And how do we credit that? Recredit cannabis, because it has been known since 1974, 75, that cannabis and THC kill cancer cells. That's what it does. And the research to date will show that. So I'm going to go through my one final thing here. And this is for Angelica, because I know that she'd probably want me to do this. I'm going to show you what I think is probably the most startling statistic that I've run across since I've been doing this stuff. All right. And I know what's inspired me. Right around her passing, I was inspired to look up all this stuff. And I go, whoa. All right. So here we go. We're going to get your mind blown. All right. In 1970, Richard Nixon signed the Controlled Substances Act, which put cannabis in the most restrictive schedule. Why do we know that? And constricted research for over 50 years. In other words, until very, very recently, no research could be conducted on cannabis. It was either barred or the obstacles were so high or it was so costly. Zero research on cannabis other than to find out how bad it was. You'll find, if you go to PubMed.gov and do a search on marijuana, you might find a lot of studies, but most of those studies, I will say, are probably ones that are trying to find something bad. So in June 1971, because thinking marijuana is bad, Richard Nixon declared the war on drugs, characterizing drug use as public enemy number one. Now, in reality, Nixon invented the drug war to silence blacks and hippies. Now, I will say this. The word hippies today can be replaced with liberals. This is how, again, the trifecta looks at us. They want to invent the drug war. They're kind of doing it with fentanyl and things like that. And they wanted to silence blacks and liberals. That's us. That's us. Now, 1975, research found that THC and CBN, which is a minor cannabinoid, inhibited tumor growth and essentially cured cancer. And then, so in later clinical review just a few years ago, definitely backs this up and shows that both THC and CBD are promising combats in the fight against cancers. So now here's your statistic. From 1970 to 2023, 27 million. Get the sick in. 27 million people died of cancer. How do I know this? I looked the numbers up from the National Cancer Institute and the Centers for Disease Control. In 2023 alone, cancer is going to cause an expected, I think, 600,000 deaths. 24,000 of them will be from cancer's tumor of the brain. Do you think we run the drug war? Do you think we actually won I think that was a good idea to constrict research and place cannabis so far away that you basically, lock and keyed your basic cure for cancer up for 50 years. So what if cure for cancer was right under our noses, right there? If cannabis cannabis research should be considered and conducted beginning in 1975 without the war on drugs. Now, if only half of those people who died since then, just half of the 27 million, that's 14 million people who could be spared the agony of cancer. And for 15 years, Angelica was in part among them. Now, with the endocannabinoid system, compounds, cannabis is a legitimate target for treating brain cancer and all other cancers. And I'm a witness to that because cannabis took care of my breast cancer, and for 3 years now, and all I did to do was take the RSO. I refused to take chemotherapy. So what I'm saying here, this is what we're looking. If there wasn't anything more egregious that I've run across in my career than drug policy reform, this has got to be it. All right. So I'm going to leave you with that little number there, and I will put the transcript. Well, not transcript. Well, we'll put the PowerPoint PDF into the transcript, and you can grab it from there. And I hope that maybe Bob and Suzanne could put it in the meeting notes as well, so that everybody can take a look at this and appreciate what we're doing here at the Free Press. Okay, that's it. Thanks a lot. I can take questions.
Anybody got a question? Raise your hand or speak up. You can unmute yourselves. Joe Motel. Anybody?
I think Mark is on now. Do we have Mark back, Stansberry?
Yeah, Mark, you want to get in there? His mic's on.
Yeah,
Mary Jane, I have a question.
and other people, yeah, go ahead. Who's first? I don't know.
Great.
You identified Joe, so Joe and then whoever else.
Well,
spoke out.
Joe didn't have a question necessarily. Winnie's up. Go ahead, Win.
So if you get cancer and that one compound cures it, how do you get that one compound?
It's called Rick Simpson oil. Do you know what Rick Simpson oil is?
No.
Okay. Rick Simpson oil it was named for this guy in Canada who had a skin cancer, and he wanted a way of treating it without, of course, going through the pharmaceutical industry and chemotherapy and all that. And so he concocted, if you want to say that way, a very highly concentrated THC oil. There's a way that you can do this, and it's called the Rick Simpson oil in his honor. And it's highly concentrated, high THC, and it comes in these little syringes. It should be gooey like oil. If you get it, it's going to be real gooey like oil or something like that. You take a little dabble under your tongue. When I had cancer, I took it 3 times a day. I take a maintenance dose now once a day. You put it on your tongue. And what happens is that's the quickest way to get into your system. You know, it's better than inhaling, actually get it in your system more most quickly through your gums. And then what happens is the THC goes in there and counters cancer cells, it kills them.
But where do you get that?
Okay, you can get it from a dispensary. My favorite dispensary is the Botanist, which is downtown on Russell Street. Am I got that? Not far from Comfest, actually. If you're not familiar with how to work with a program, you can go to the website of these various dispensaries, the Botanist being one of them, and you can look in their listing of products, and you're going to want ones that are extracts, because what they do is through a procedure, they extract the oil from the buds of the plant. You don't, not the leaves, but the buds of the plant. They extract the oils, and they put them, as they say, these little, what they call syringes. They're not called syringe in a classic sense, but they call them syringes. And then, like I say, you go to the Botanist, but okay, I will have to say, to do that, you have to be part of the program, which means you have to register. You have to get a doctor to give you a recommendation. I would say it's between you and your doctor as to what that recommendation. There's like 25 different conditions under the program that you may qualify under, and probably the most common one is chronic pain. And so you get your recommendation. You register. Actually, your doctor registers you with the program. You pay the little fee. It's like $50. Then you're able to go into a dispensary and purchase what you want, up to, what did I say, 3 months supply.
But you don't register for cancer. You register for just pain or whatever is authorized.
Well, you're right. If let's say for me, if I was when I started with the program, I was not a cancer patient. I could do cancer now is one of the qualifying conditions, so I could use that now.
Mhm.
I qualified under chronic pain, and I went to my recommending physician. Physicians have to be licensed to recommend by the state of Ohio. So I went to my recommending physician, and he filled out his paperwork and submitted to the state. The state sends me a message that says, okay, you're accepted. You have to pay your fee. I pay my fee. And they give me a little card. I don't have my card with me. They give me a little card. And I go into the dispensary, and there's a person there that's kind of in a booth or something like that. And I give them my driver's license that confirms it's me, and my card. And they'll, say, okay, you're registered, and you go into the dispensary. Now, what I do is, I've done this a lot, so I know how to do it. I'll order online. You can order online now, and I'll say, okay, I want 2 syringes here. So I just did this a couple of days ago. 2 little syringes of RSO. I say, okay. They give me, they say, okay, you come in at such as the prescribed time, and I did. And really, they just have it waiting for you and pick it up and go. I was probably there 5 minutes, and I'd be exaggerating.
Well, that certain kind of oil that you got for cancer and also for pain, is it like for general use, or do they have a variety of different extractives that your doctor can prescribe?
Be clear here, doctors do not prescribe cannabis. That's a function of the Controlled Substances Act. Because of a court decision in 1999, I think, physicians are granted, doctor-patient privilege, so they can recommend it for your condition, but they cannot prescribe it. All right. Okay, that's just the way it is. That's because we have goofy laws like the Controlled Substances Act.
I'm
Okay.
sorry to jump in. Mary Jane, this is Suzanne. Just Winnie, I recently was the caregiver for Connie Harris when she had cancer, and she was able to do her interview with the doctor that was able to, agree that she could get a medical marijuana card over the phone. She didn't even have to go in because she was like in a hospital at the time. And the people that are in the dispensaries, I didn't know this till I first went into one. They help you. You tell them, this is my problem. And they're not like doctors, but they certainly know enough about the product and they're trained that they can recommend after you get there, this is a good thing for you to use.
So they are like doctors.
Well, they're it's like anybody that
Yeah.
works in the store, you're like, I'm looking for a red, cashmere top, and they'll take you to the red cashmere top section. You tell them, that I'm having a lot of pain, what type of pain, they ask a lot of questions, and then they show you what the options are that you can buy. Now, in the case of Connie Harris, I just contacted Mary Jane Borden and I said, what should she get? And so I kind of had an idea before I went there, but I did get the impression that they're very, very helpful. They walk you through it. The people that work behind the scenes in the dispensaries, at least the one I went to, they were very nice.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, there's another hand.
We got a question from Connie Hammond.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just wondering, if your ballot initiative passes and the legislature denies to enact it or changes it in any way, do you have any recourse other than just starting all over again, Mary Jane? I know what an arduous process this is.
Don't I know what an arduous process is? Yeah, no kidding. I think the only it's like going back to the legislature, the legislative recourse is it's actually a bill that's been introduced by a Democrat named Casey Weinstein, and it mirrors the RMLA. It's like a bill in the legislature, introduced in the legislature, not the statute, but a bill that mirrors the RMLA. So you almost could shoehorn them in like that together. But in the same respect, given what I saw in that bill or the resolution from the Senate, I think and the governor's come out and said, I think also the Speaker of the House and some other Republicans have come out and said that they don't want this. And so because of the trifecta, I don't know that you have a lot of recourse because everything's controlled by Republicans. Now the court of, what do they call it? High jurisdiction, court of jurisdiction over all ballot issues is the High Supreme Court. So you don't go to a lower court if you have an issue, you go directly to the Supreme Court. And maybe there's a chance the Supreme Court could rule that this or that about it. But some states have provisions in their initiated statute laws where if you get all the way through the ballot, it stays this law for a period of time. Ohio doesn't have that.
Well, thanks, Mary Jane. Sorry, everybody.
We all have I was going to say, there's some people here that ask questions in the chat.
Yeah.
They
I think they answered their own questions, I believe. I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. So, okay. If there's no other questions, I'm here to answer your questions. You know where to find me. I've got my email address on the PowerPoint. So if you want to ask me something, I'm here, and let me know.
Mary Jane.
Stay on for a minute.
Mary
And
Jane.
we're not cutting you off right this second. Yes, Stephen, go ahead.
What happened to the doctor on Broad Street by Nelson Road? And I have another question there.
That's Joel Simmons. He's my recommending physician. I just got a note that says I have to renew, so I'll find out in a while. Joel might have, I think he was going to close that office, but I think he still recommends.
Okay, so that was just probably an over-expensive storefront that he had to maintain or something.
Probably.
Yeah, the other thing is that somebody's talking about iridology in the chat, Justin Steiner, but everybody's born with a cannabinoid receptor system in their bodies. This is part of your natural system that you're born with. You have cannabinoid receptors. And, some of the research they did back in the day, they found some very good things that happened, but it got suppressed with marijuana studies. And because we can't allow this to get out because everybody will want it, So yeah, it's almost like as a species, human beings grew up with the readily available marijuana plant nearby that our system synced up with it and works with it as a physiological enhancement to our existence. And having that subtracted from us is very detrimental and the birds too. I mean, before Bush got into office, 50% of birdseed was hemp seed. And then he said, oh, there's a little THC in this hemp seed. We got to ban it at the border, and he blocked it. And ever since then, birdseed has not recovered from that insult. And we have no idea what that's doing. They're saying birds are dying in mass. We got the sixth extinction going on. This is another thing that's affecting the whole deal. Marijuana should not, or hemp, or whatever, call it. There's a guy, did you know a guy named Richard Rose by any chance? He's a hemp advocate.
For the name.
Yeah, he is coming out and saying, we got all this stuff with CBD and you will get the medical benefits, which I'm sure he's great with. But then the other part of the movement is to get the hemp plant out there as a fiber and a resource for industry paper. You see a pile of trees that they just cut down, 3 million trees in a circle. They're getting ready to turn into cardboard. It's like, oh my God, what happened to that whole forest? But I'll stop. Justin's got
No, you make good points. Good points.
Yes, fantastic. I'm sorry I was late, but we do have Lidia Garcia, who's with the a new project, the anthology of Immigrant Voices. I'd sort of like to honor her time as well. She's been with us. Sorry I was late, but are you ready, Lidia? I think you have voice, Stephen, please. And then I'm sorry I'm late. I something going on with my connection. Finally, I got it figured out. It's good. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
And Mary Jane, thank you. Just to close out your contribution, the Angels tribute is very important. Thank you for that story, and please, we need to share that more. The Schedule 1 thing, we're still in that play. And the whole idea of palliative care, where we are with that whole issue, I agree. We have to be proactive in so many different ways. But thank you for your contribution always. And Lidia, thank you again for your. I think you're going to share some poetry, possibly. I hope. Okay, go for it, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lidia Garcia, and I'm one of the feature writers on Everything is Cells and Bodies, Ohio Migration Anthology, Volume 2. And so I'm going to share a little bit of what I wrote, a little bit about the project, and where you can read more if you're interested. So I'm going to read the synopsis first. I am a man, yo existo, which means I exist. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. If you've never felt your humanity denied, you might not understand why some people have to declare their right to exist. We are just cells and bodies after all, and that is a connection to the Ohio Migration Anthology. In all of its volumes, again, this is the second one, is trying to highlight the stories, artworks, poems, and interviews in Volume 2, Everything is Cells and Bodies, grapples with belonging, identity, and dignity. We have authors that have histories in Ohio, particularly in areas, Columbus, where I grew up, Cleveland. I also lived in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Toledo, Akron, and Parma. I no longer live in Ohio. I actually live in Washington State and was living in Oregon earlier this year and last year. So it's crazy to hear about Ohio's marijuana policies when over here it's a complete 360. But in the anthology, we have migration representation from the the Great Migration from African Americans, Indonesia, India, Singapore, Canada, Hungary, Slovakia, Mauritania, Guinea, which is where my best friend is from, Greece, Turkey, Guatemala, Uganda, and Mexico, where I'm from. So I'm going to read my piece that I contribute to the anthology, entitled 2,453. 2,453 miles is the distance that I have traveled to achieve more, dreaming bigger and creating the life I've always wanted. I moved to a city and state that I had never been to, far away from family, my support systems, and away from anything familiar. As I am living at the time 24 years of gracing this earth, I am reminded of another journey I took decades ago. No, it was taken for me. 22 years ago, my parents took a decision for me. Or was it even a choice? Regardless, a move that will impact and affect the way I move within this world, or I don't. They moved our family, our future, our hopes and dreams 1,776 miles away from our ancestors, from our people, from our culture, from our language. Separated from my country, robbed of my family, upbringing, community, and the ability to know and make a decision for myself. Despite growing up in Ohio, thousands of miles away from home, where is home? I found and created a community and space where I didn't think there was room. Choking on words like Hispanic, Latina, Latinx, Latine, American, Mexican American, undocumented, outsider, foreign. When the blood that courses through me is 100% jefa, which means boss, fighting stereotypes while stomping out bigotry and hatred just because my existence pisses off white people. Uncomfortable to those who see my being in this country as a disgrace, all while longing for a country I haven't seen in nearly 2 decades. Longing for an understanding beyond that is of the media, my parents, labels, and a tongue so sharp that it convinces outsiders that I'm fuerte, strong, a woman, mandona, boss again, lidiadora, which is a play on my name, meaning fighter, beyond meanings. Yet I crave a hug filled with the very dirt that birthed my ancestors and forged me into the chingona, badass, quien soy el día de hoy, that I am today. Thank you. I wrote this piece after moving away from Ohio, where I grew up for 22 years. I moved to Oregon, as I mentioned last year. And it was a time where my parents, as first-generation immigrants, didn't understand why I left Ohio. And my love for Ohio is very, very so prominent. Half of my identity now is being a Midwesterner from Ohio. But it was a difficult time to do the same thing that my parents did 22 years ago and have their understanding of what it meant to make a choice for myself. When we moved to the US, it wasn't a choice for me and it wasn't a choice for my family. So when I contributed this piece to the anthology, it was important to contribute this other type of journey that is not as celebrated in US migration stories and in migration stories of people that are already migrated to the US. So this presentation was going to be pretty short, actually, other than me sharing about the work itself. It's available on Barnes & Nobles and Amazon. And of course, you can always request it from your library. So I'll share those links in the chat. But I will open up to questions if anybody has any.
And this being volume 2, that means there's a volume 1, so you could get both volume 1 and 2 probably from the Ohio Immigration Alliance, probably.
Yes, that would be correct.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your story. I was intrigued by the 2 words that you used for boss. I'm always anti-boss in a lot of ways. So when you say doña and jefe, within your poem, you had a different twist on both of them. Where are you at with both now? Yeah, if you don't mind.
To like explain a little bit more about that, Mark?
Please, yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
Yep. So in Spanish, so it's a cultural understanding. It for women to take back the word jefa, boss, is a move that is more prominent in my generation. We call it like jefa moves, like boss moves, to really take back that gender oppression, one, and then two, to really signify that we are no longer going to be submissive in what our culture really admires or really is like stuck to. So for me to like bring it up at least twice is almost like an empowering thing, because women in any culture, mostly, we're not expected to be bosses, we're not expected to be in leadership roles, and to take back that word empowered me and other people that I know. And especially one of the people I met in college, she's a self-proclaimed jefa, and that's what I have her like saved in my contact. And it was like inspirational to me to see another woman of color, a Latina, as a migrant as well, and have a PhD. So for me, I was inspired by somebody else to really reclaim that word and bring that to the table. So thank you for that question.
No,
Justin, did you want to say something? Oh, sorry, Mark.
no, thank you, please, go ahead. No, I appreciate, Mary Jane was talking a little bit about storytelling and anthologies, you know, this first and second attempt by the Ohio Immigrant Alliance is very telling of the power that story can tell on both sides. You know, Mary Jane, through your organizing with the issue, well, beyond issue one. I mean, we're now coming down to the crux of whether issue one's going to go forward or not. But beyond that, yeah, Mary Jane, your movement, and then Lidia, with your efforts to bring the stories out of folks that are coming to Columbus, transitioning through Columbus, or even Ohio in general. You know, humanity is what it is. I mean, we should flow as we should flow. You know, people come and go. So thank you so much for both of your presentations tonight.
You have a question from Justin, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say Justin's had his hand up for a while, so I knew what he was going to talk about, so I wanted to get Lidia in ahead of time so that we could at least honor her time. And thank you again. Please explore the anthologies, though, that they're very strong voices, stories of folks that have come through Ohio and people that have tried to go through what's going on. Okay, Justin, go.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah, please, Connie.
Lydia, thank you. I think the first anthology was the proceeds benefited Ohio Immigrant Alliance. Is that the same thing with this, Lydia?
Yeah, that's a good question. So right now we don't have a spot that it will go to benefit. I know that we're forecasted to hopefully break even within 3 months. So I'm assuming we'll receive some kind of update at the time, since it just came out in September, but I would have to double check with Lynn on where we're at with that. But thank you.
Okay. But thank you, Lydia. Great work.
Thank you.
All right, Justin, I think we're ready for you. You got your voice? Got it up? Thank you.
Well, yeah, I love hearing that story, Lydia. It's really inspiring. My mom was born in Colombia, so I'm first generation here in Ohio, actually, and that's funny to me because, like, what a coincidence. And I wanted to ask a question. Why did you choose the state Oregon? I think that's very interesting because I've only moved to one other state, and that was in California for about 6 months during 2020. And because of the severity of the fires and COVID, I ended up moving back.
Yes, that's a good question, Justin, and especially if we discuss migration. And so my family and I came to the US in 2000. I went to college, graduated from Ohio State in 21. So I moved from Columbus to Cleveland and lived there a year and worked at a local family center. And I realized I no longer wanted to work with children. I did not want to do that in the first place, but I was forcibly asked to work with kids. So that's another like side note. And so I was always interested in working for Mother Earth specifically. A lot of my work has a lot to do with like literal roots and like dirt. And like that's what I finished this work with, being hugged by my ancestors in dirt. And I have no connections to Oregon that I know of, but I got a job opportunity to move out to Oregon and work in clean energy with communities and build solutions for clean energy future. So I moved to Oregon last year, never been there. And I decided to do that for a change of scenery. As we know, Ohio is very flat. There's great things to do in Ohio, but I really wanted to come back to nature and live in a different climate. I wanted to live in a state and region that was more friendly, quote unquote, to immigrants, and especially with a lot of the political climate. So that was one of my reasons for a job opportunity and also for the political climate itself.
So Lidia,
Yes, Mark.
2453, what's 2453 to you?
What does it mean?
Yeah, 2453, because isn't that in your poem, right?
Yes.
Like 2453, right?
Yeah, so that is like the literal miles that that when I moved from Columbus, where I grew up, to where I ended up living in Oregon at the time. So when I wrote this, I was living in Oregon. It's probably around the same amount from, I guess, like the latitude. Don't get me if it's wrong. And where I moved up from Portland to Vancouver, since they're just on the border of each other.
Right.
So thanks for that context there.
Yeah,
And the other amount, the 1755 maybe or something, that's from where my birthplace and where I was living in Oregon.
Okay.
Thank you.
Numerology for me, that's all. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, cool, Mark.
Yeah. Thank you. Mary Jane, your work has been consistent, and thank you so much for your presentation. I apologize for not being there. I wanted to hear it from the very beginning, and I'm looking forward to seeing when Suzanne gets it up on our blast after. And anybody that does have announcements, give them to Suzanne, please, so we can make sure that we understand what's going on in the community. We're coming into an electoral time, right? Less than a month. So November is an important date. So please at least vote before then somehow, one way or the other. You don't have to vote on that day. You can vote anytime from now and then. And I used to say vote early and vote often, but someone told me not to do that anymore. So I don't say that anymore. Someone said that's too much like fraud. So I was like, okay, I don't want to say that. But vote early if you need to, and vote when you want to. Vote often, I meant vote every time that there's an election. Vote all the time is what I mean by that. So thank you again, everybody. I'm sorry, what time is it? Are we good? Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got some more time. If anybody, Joe, you had some hands up a while ago. Justin was I think getting to a question, but maybe that was his questions.
I have an announcement, Mark. This is Suzanne.
And then we'll maybe jump into some. Joe looks like he's unmasked, so he should be ready to go too.
Okay, real quick. People might recognize the name David Swanson. He's spoken at 2 of our salons in the past. He's a very active peace activist and has been ever since sort of the Gulf War, I think. and he lives near Washington, D.C., but he's come to Columbus before, and he's planning a trip to Columbus again coming up here on November 9th. So he's taking a tour across the United States with speaking engagements, talking about peace and war, anti-war activism and things like that, what's going on in the world. And so we scheduled him to be here on Thursday, November 9th. And we're combining that, the Free Press is combining that event with our annual awards event. So I want to invite everybody to attend that event. It's completely free. We're going to be offering a dinner. So it's our annual Free Press Awards dinner again, first time since the pandemic. And it's going to be at the Vanderelli Room.
Gary and Winnie, thank you, Gary and Winnie, and
Thank you, Gary Whitty and Winnie Worth. And it's going to be at the Vanderelli Room, which is over by 400 East Rich. It's one of those in the artist colony over there. It's an art gallery run by AJ Vanderelli, Alicia Jean Vanderelli. And it's going to start at 5 o'clock Thursday, November 9th. We're going to have dinner. We'll give away our awards, and then David Swanson will speak. And he's going to speak about war abolition and what's going on in Ukraine. And I can imagine maybe they'll be thrown in a little bit about what's going on in Israel and Gaza Strip as well, depending on, we'll see what's going on. But
yeah, he'll respond to anything that's coming up. Thank you, Suzanne.
And the two awards, I'm just going to let you know the two awards. We're giving away a Libby Award to Cynthia Brown of the Coalition to End Qualified Immunity. She's spoken at our salon many times, and we're giving away a special activist artist award to AJ Vanderelli, who runs the Vanderelli Room. She's been running that facility for over a decade, all by herself. She's a young woman here in Columbus who started up this art gallery that almost exclusively had social justice themed art and art displays and artist events there. And she's just been a real kind of a catalyst to a lot of the artists that are doing art that's dedicated to social justice, peace, nonviolence, plus a lot of other issues. So there's a Facebook event. If you're on my email list, you've already been invited to the David Swanson and Awards event, but I'll also send it out on the email, which I probably won't get around to sending the email out until next weekend, since I'm on vacation right now and don't have a whole lot of capacity to do that while I'm running around.
Well, you enjoy your vacation and quit worrying about us, okay? We'll get it out. But November 9th at Vanderelli. And Vanderelli Room, this is like one of the last events that they may do there. They are possibly facing eviction. So we need to probably start a squatter movement. And so that night I'm calling on, no, I'm teasing. We'll discuss what we might do in support with the Vanderellis, but I was moving towards something that I should probably not on this session. But so November 9th, dinner and awards, and Swanson will come with a good update on everything. So thank you again for everybody. It's, what is it, 8 right now? Yeah, 8:03. So appreciate, Joe, you had something you might want to talk about, because you're doing something sort of momentous here in the city of Columbus, and I've been talking about you being a Mayor Motul for a long time. So do your thing, speak, please.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. And yeah, speaking of the Vanderelli Room, I was actually there today. They had the Urban Scrawl event. So Alicia had her building open, and I strolled through it, and yeah, she's a wonderful lady and doing some great things. As you guys know, the campaign's just crazy. I'm just, from the minute I wake up in the morning till I go to bed at night, I'm involved with it. I'm doing things. So just going to give you as quick as I can, kind of a blow by blow. Early voting, as Mark talked about, for the rest of the month till the end of October, it goes from 8 o'clock until 5 p.m. And man, if anybody can volunteer to hand out literature at the Board of Elections anytime you want, get it on my website, go to my email, send me a Facebook message. and I can get you literature. If you can just spend an hour or whatever out there handing out literature, it'd be great. The Democrats got their, the retirees out there handing out the sample ballot that I've got to, combat against. And, but it's going real well. I've been out there. It started Wednesday. I was there Wednesday and Friday. We had some other people out there. Sandy Bolzenius was out there, Joe Sommer and myself. But we want to just keep doing it. And, an hour or 2 hours, whatever, it would be a great help. And again, that's from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So whatever's convenient for you. And you can go to like I said, you can go to my website, sign up. I can get you the literature. I can meet you out there. We'll work it out one way or the other. Just real quick, I thought I'd let you know what's going on with the campaign. I'm going to interview with Carolyn Harding on GRN or yeah. So I'm going to do that Tuesday. I'm going to interview with the Spectrum. They're going to have me on Channel 4. Channel 10 is going to have me on their Sunday morning political show as well. And I think those will be towards the end of the month. One might be this Sunday and then the other might be the following Sunday. So that'll be good. We're going to have a town hall meeting this Thursday at the main library's auditorium at 6 o'clock from 6 to 8. We've invited all the candidates. Ginther's been invited. We'll see what happens. But everybody's been invited. But that town hall is at the main library auditorium from 6 to 8 p.m. And I think that's kind of it for now. Not a lot of any more candidate forums except for that, I believe. And I'm just, you guys all know I'm busy as can be and just doing my thing. And anything you can do to help, like I said, with literature. If you want literature just to do your own neighborhood, that's great too. We can just give you the lit. That way you can do it at your own convenience, spend an hour here, an hour another day, hand out, a total of 200 pieces or so. That's kind of the way we've been doing it instead of doing like organized lit drops on the weekend and stuff like that. And it's been pretty effective. Yard signs, I ran out. I bought 500. I've been out of them for about 2 weeks. We ordered 200 more. They should be in this Friday. We already have a list of 40 more people that want yard signs. So again, if you want a yard sign, go to my website, go to the volunteer thing, and just say, I want a yard sign. Here's my address and name, or personal message, email. I'm real easy to get a hold of, believe me. So just let us know about that too. Actually, it was great. I got an email from Allied Roofing. They own a business at Integrity Drive and Alum Creek Drive, and I looked on the map, and it's a pretty good sized company. They want yard signs to put all around their business on Alum Creek Drive. They want about 5 or 10, and I have no idea who these people are. And I'm getting these kind of. I received a $500 contribution from somebody who I do not know. I've never met before, and I'm just like. It's just been amazing. The amount of people that have reached out to me, call me about stuff, and just want to meet me and talk and want help with something. And it's been endless, this whole campaign. So I'm very positive and upbeat about it, and just going to continue on. I mean, everywhere I go, I swear to God, I'm just not making this shit up. I hear the same thing about Ginther, people do not like the man. And they're glad I'm running, so we'll see.
Connie Hammond has a question.
Yeah, Connie.
Yeah, Joe, could you email the information about your event at the library, and I'll put it in my newsletter tomorrow.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Is it on your Facebook page or anything?
Not no, I think the gal who's putting it together, I don't think she has the invite put together yet, because there was something just happened a day or two ago with the event, and I think she had to change it, and I don't think it's been changed yet. But I'll get you the page that can actually be saved and put out there on social media. I'll get it to you.
Okay, because when did you say it is again?
Thursday, this Thursday from 6
Thursday.
at the main
Okay,
library.
because I only send I'll be sending it out tomorrow night.
Okay.
If you can get me that information by tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good, Connie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Justin has his hand up.
Yes. Sorry. I actually had a couple questions for Joe there. So this is actually the first time I'm hearing about your campaign and you running against Denver. So that's awesome. I'm happy to hear about that. I just got approved for my own radio show in Cleveland as part of the North Coast Underground as part of my schooling. And I was wondering if I could interview you at some point.
Yeah, reach out to me. My email's joe.motil@yahoo. And let me know, I'll let you know what days I got available or something like that. So yeah, we could possibly work it out. The schedule's getting, it's busy, but it's not, I can, hopefully maybe squeeze in an hour or something like that. That'd be great. I just
I'd
actually interviewed with a young man who's doing a paper for his law degree from Akron University. And he had to do a campaign in Ohio. And he said he was watching my mayor's race and he saw it was a grassroots campaign. So we did an over the phone interview for about 45 minutes. And, so yeah, it was great. He didn't know much about Columbus politics. And I, explained it to him and he was like, shook. He was like, yeah, sounds familiar. Yeah. So, but sure, that'd be great, Justin.
Awesome. Could you do me a favor and put your email in the chat?
Yeah. Hang on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Yep. You're welcome.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for this October. It wasn't too scary, right? It wasn't too scary in October,
Can I make a brief announcement about
Please,
for
Connie.
JVP? We're all heartbroken about what's happening in Palestine and Israel, and the casualties are going up on both sides, and we mourn every single death. But JVP has gone into massive action about this. They don't want the deaths, as unfortunate as they are, in Israel, to be weaponized to kill innocent civilians. And they've been holding power hours every day at 3 o'clock. And there've been up to over 1,000 people on those Zoom calls where we all take action together. And what they're saying now is, we're worried about the long-term solutions, but this is a humanitarian crisis. This is a genocide that is going to happen, and we need to prevent this. So if you would please take a few minutes this evening or tomorrow to call both senators and your representative and tell them you're in favor of de-escalation, you're in favor of a ceasefire, you do not want any more weapons sent to Israel. We are already sending more bombs and munitions to Israel. We don't want to see a wider war. I am so worried about this. I'm also worried about an increase in anti-Semitism because of what's going on, and an increase in Islamophobia. Things have got to cool down. And there was a secret memo that was released from the State Department to all their ambassadors, and they were telling all the diplomats not to use certain words. Those words were de-escalation, ceasefire, end the violence and bloodshed, and restore calm. We need to use those words and tell our legislators. And JVP has mobilized so far 26,000 phone calls to DC, and probably even more emails. And it is starting to work. Some elected officials are starting to act. So please take that simple action when you have time. You can just leave a voicemail. We want to make sure that their voicemail boxes are just jam-packed when they go back to their offices on Monday. Thank you for letting me make that announcement.
No, thanks, Connie. That's so very important. Local action has been going on, and please join what you can do and where you can be. And folks that are going to be sitting in somebody giving you some words of wisdom from some kind of scripture tomorrow, you better ask them why they speaking about what's going on, if they aren't. At least offering up prayer. So, Winnie, go ahead, please. You want people to hear you? You gotta push that little button. Stephen, can you give her access? I hope. I don't know if she's, there you go.
There.
There you go.
Connie, if you could put the information for how to get on the Jewish Voices for Peace email list and their Zoom, that would be helpful.
Winnie, I've been including all that in my newsletter. I don't know if I can find it quickly enough before it closes, but I will try to.
Yeah. It's
Okay,
all-
well, put
it's-
in, well, can people access your newsletter online?
Yep.
So
Well,
if you could put that in the
well,
chat, people
it's
could look
just-
for it themselves.
I'm sorry, it only has the events on the news. I'll try to find it. If I don't find it before this is over, I'll email it to you separately.
And if you get on that email list, there's always these opportunities to watch documentaries from Palestine on a variety of topics, and they're free. And so it's really interesting email list to be on.
Thank you. Yeah. So
Thank you, Winnie.
And when are you going to go back to having in-person meetings? Because it stopped after COVID.
What do you mean? Salon?
For Jewish Voices for Peace?
Oh, Jewish Voice for Peace.
Yeah, I don't know. Right now, we are just so swamped. And we're just doing legislative work right now. I don't even know if we're going to have a meeting in November, but it'll just depend on what our coordinating committee decides to do.
Yeah.
You are having meetings?
We're having meetings on Zoom.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I think you're on our Gmail list for our chapter meetings.
Okay.
Yeah, I get pretty regular, so that they are going out pretty regular. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, the world is going to in a basket, as they say. You got Haiti, UN peacemakers or whatever they call them, peacekeepers heading in there. That's another occupation, basically. You start looking at Guatemala and the recalcitrance of repressive agenda going on. Ukraine, let us not forget about Ukraine. Everybody talking about Ukraine forever, but now Gaza's taken over. And then local issues as well. This election means big stuff, even though it's an off year. So I hope everybody comes out before then and votes and tries to rock the boat a little bit. Rock that boat a little bit. The boat's not gonna topsy-turvy too hard. It already did, when the president that was before this one, what's his name? Somebody knows. He's a billionaire, or he was supposed to be a billionaire.
Guy.
I forget his name, but they never mind. I'm not going to get too deep into that. But thank you again, everybody. Elections are important. Please vote. Even Senator Lake is taking voting serious again. So if she can, everybody else can too. Okay. That's my plug. If Lake can get into voting again, y'all should be able to as well. And she, if you know what I mean, Arizona denier of all elections wants to get back.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for hosting.
Of
Thank you,
course.
Steve, for being our engineer.
Winnie, I found it. I'm putting it in the text.
Okay, we won't turn it off till you got that in there, Connie. Thanks. Bye, everybody. We're
Yeah,
gonna
thanks,
sign off
everybody.
here.
Be careful, and we'll see everybody November 9th, and then we'll do something on the online, I guess, again on the 11th. So the 9th will be after the election. So Joe will be Mayor Motul, as I've always said. At least he'll push a great push button towards that, at least. Everybody be safe. Don't eat too much candy that's got razor blades in it or anything, okay? Or fentanyl or whatever the danger out there is. Okay. Take care. Love, peace, be safe.
Don't watch Star Trek.